I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm scared that things might end badly for Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales in Beyond the Spider-Verse. For those who have hopes for the eventual positive romantic outcome between Miles and Gwen, think again, because the history and the lore for the Marvel storylines suggests otherwise. So in this video, we're going to be going through the comic book and cinematic history of Spider-Man so we can finally understand why Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy never get their happily ever after, and we will know once and for all if Miles and Gwen are destined to fail. And if we're being honest, through our research and meticulous investigation, this story might, and I mean might, actually have a happy ending, but you're gonna have to wait till the end to understand.
In every other universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man. And in every other universe, it doesn't end well.
Things never seem to end well for Spider-Man. Honestly, there are a lot of heroes who have had a hard life, but in my estimation, Spider-Man has definitely had it the hardest. Spider-Man's romantic relationships almost always end badly. I mean, just as recently as the Spider-Man No Way Home movie, where we see Peter and MJ's story take a turn for the worse, and that doesn't even compare to how bad it gets in the comics. Do you know that in the Spider-Man Reign comics, MJ dies due to being exposed to Spider-Man's reproductive semen? Yeah, wrap your mind around that for a minute. The story even gets worse with Gwen Stacy. Speaking based on the comic book history, Gwen Stacy and Peter's relationship has been nothing but a roller coaster that ultimately leads to Gwen Stacy's demise. One of the most notable examples will be the night when Gwen Stacy died from the Amazing Spider-Man issues 121 to 122. Believe me when I say that this was one of the most bizarre tragedies to ever happen to Spider-Man since his origin story. Everything started when Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, had lost most of his memory and had forgotten that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Except now he was going through a lot of financial pressures, and he was also stuck taking care of his drug-addicted son, Harry Osborn. Norman eventually recovers his memories and his hatred for Peter Parker, so as a way to mess with Spider-Man, he kidnaps Gwen and throws her off a bridge, and Spider-Man, in his attempts to save her, ends up breaking her neck. If you're thinking, oh, that sounds familiar, then you're definitely right, because this particular story was adopted in the Amazing Spider-Man film, you know, the lovable Andrew Garfield. So when Gwen is dead, and as you can imagine, Spider-Man takes it so hard and the story is so impactful and tragic that it kickstarted the Bronze Age of comics, where audiences started seeking more of a mature kind of storytelling. That story actually continues in the Clone Saga. Gwen gets cloned by Jackal because, you know, Spider-Man's loved ones can never rest in peace. The clone also dies in the end and is tragically turned into clone goo. And those aren't the only times that something bad has happened to Gwen. In the Ultimate Spider-Man comics that's set in the Earth 1610, which is ironically the same universe that Miles is from, that universe's Gwen gets killed by Carnage, still due to her relationship with Spider-Man. It would explain why there's no Gwen Stacy in the Miles Morales' universe. So it should be clear that things always end badly for Gwen and Peter. The only times that Gwen survives is in the What If series, and then in the Spectacular Spider-Man storyline where she eventually marries Peter. But those are not considered canon. In fact, one of the reasons why Gwen's Spider-Gwen is also known as Ghost Spider is because so many of her variants have died due to her relationship with Spider-Man. And the same happens in reverse when Gwen is Spider-Woman and Peter is normal. We all saw what happened in Across the Spider-Verse, right? How Peter became the Lizard and how it ended up killing him. But Peter isn't the only Spider-Man, right? What about Miles Morales? Well, throughout the comic book lore, there are a few instances where Gwen and Miles develop feelings for each other, like in the Sitting in a Tree arc, where it seems that they are heading for a relationship only to eventually decide to just be friends. It should be noted that these are the comic variants of Miles from 1610 and Gwen from Earth 65, and they both settle for being friends, similar to what we first saw in the 2018 Into the Spider-Verse. But what further complicates Miles and Gwen's relationship in the live action iteration is that in the movie, they both seem to have other prospective love interests. For Gwen, it's the renegade Hobie Brown, who perfectly embodies the bad boy persona to a T. We can already tell that there's a little thing going on between Hobie and Gwen because we know she's been spending a lot of time in his universe, And the main reason Hobie is a part of the Spider Society is because of Gwen. He literally says he's there to look out for his drummer. And the fact that Gwen wears his shoes and also left her toothbrush in his place doesn't complicate things any less. Miles, on the other hand, seems to have a lot of chemistry with Spider-Bite, and it is further emphasized when she lets him escape from the Spider Society when she could have stopped him. The funny thing is that she also joined Gwen's group of Spider-Men who she assembled to help Miles, indicating that she does care about the boy. Some would say that this is a subtle nod to the difficult nature of Spider-Man relationships inserted by the writers, but it does further reduce the possibility of Miles and Gwen coming together. So what's the consensus? Are they doomed to fail? Is it hopeless? Are they never getting together? Before we conclude that things are going to end badly for Miles and Gwen, let's properly analyze the entire plot of Across the Spider-Verse. In a nutshell, the Spider Society was formed to preserve the canon events in the stories of all Spider-Man, both the good and the bad. According to Miguel O'Hara, disrupting the canon has negative consequences on whatever universe that occurs in, which is exemplified by his time with his variant's family and with Pavitar's universe, where Miles saves the captain. Miles is an anomaly that seems to disrupt the canon everywhere he goes, hence why he is ostracized from the Spider Society. From the look of things, the death of a love interest, specifically Gwen Stacy, or things ending badly romantically, is a canon, one that is tantamount to every Spider-Man story. But we've already established that Miles is a canon breaker. He is someone who shatters the formulaic norm of the Spider-Verse and creates his own path. This is implied when Gwen tells him that things always end badly for Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy, and Miles tells her, well, it's the first time for everything, right? Miles telling Miguel that he isn't going to follow the canon, that he is going to do his own thing, also shows that Miles' story is going to be a lot different from the stories of the other Spider-Man, that in the places where they've failed, he's going to excel, and in the places that they've lost, he's going to win. Miles represents hope, a hope that's unlike any other in the Spider-Verse, a hope that indicates that each Spider-Man can forge their own path, have their own peculiar journey, and do it their own way. But what about the canon? If Miles ends up breaking the canon, doesn't that mean that it will result in another series of unfortunate events? Well, I don't think so, and here's why. Matt from the channel Film Theorist explicitly explains how he thinks canon events are not what we think. The disastrous events that happen after a canon event gets broken are not necessarily due to that, but they are all as a result of an incursion, which is a phenomenon that happens when people travel to other universes and cause substantial trouble, as we saw in the Doctor Strange movie in the Multiverse of Madness. And we know for a fact that Miles' very existence is a broken canon in his own universe, and yet his universe still remains. So why should this time be any different? Besides, who says that Miles and Gwen ending up together isn't canon? Believe it or not, there is a comic where that happens. It is also revealed in the Sitting in a Tree arc on Earth 8. Variants of Miles and Gwen eventually start a relationship, and they even get married, and that's the first and the only time that has ever happened. Since Miles is the only Miles Morales who is a Spider-Man in this universe, there is a very big chance that he and Gwen will end up together and have their happily ever after, and that definitely would be a satisfying close to the Spider-Verse trilogy. As a bonus though, I love to see Peter B. Parker's baby end up with Nancy Drew's baby. I know, I'll probably do a future video on that at some point in time. So let me know, guys, what do you think? Do you think that Miles and Gwen will manage to make it work? Or do you think that Sony is going to follow the Spidey canon and break them up? Let us know in the comments here below. And if you want more videos on characters from across the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse, any theory or any character analysis, definitely subscribe for more here on the channel. Check out our other videos that are down below in the description, also on the channel. Check out our links that are down below in the description as well. And as always, thanks guys so much for kicking it with Keepin It Comic. Bye.